Hi everyone, my name is Brenna Robinson. I'm the Director of the Office of Economic and Community Development for the City of Kingston, and I'm here on behalf of Mayor Noble. Thank you for the invitation. Sorry, hold on one sec. Thank you to the Orange County Citizens Foundation for the invitation and everyone involved for inviting us to come and speak about our awesome city. Who doesn't know Kingston? Has anyone not ever been there? Just one person, so you all know where we're located. We're about 24,000 population, just under 24,000. A brief history of Kingston, and you're all going to groan, right? You've already had history lessons, but it's illustrative of how Kingston has used placemaking from the very beginning. It was settled in the 1600s on the waterfront, and then an upland stockaded area was developed to protect the citizens from the local Esopus tribe. Eventually they merged, and the places in between became Midtown. We have Uptown, Midtown, and Downtown. In 1777, due to the occupation of New York City, Kingston became New York State's first capital. And the state constitution was completed there in that year and signed, and the British promptly burned it to the ground for that rebelliousness. Later in the 1800s, it was the terminus for the D&H Canal. Bluestone, Rosendale cement, Hutton and other bricks and other materials either passed through or were manufactured in Kingston and then sent on to build New York City and other places. Once the canal closed and through the mid-1900s, Kingston depended on a few remaining waterfront industries and some textile mills in Midtown, along with the professional services businesses that were located uptown. And then came urban renewal. And if you haven't already seen it, I urge you to seek out the movie The Lost Rondout, a story of urban renewal. It's an award-winning documentary produced and directed and written by Stephen Blauweis and Lynn Woods, with an original score by Peter Wexler. We have a very creative community in Kingston. Those are all award-winning, nationally recognized artists and writers from Kingston. So urban renewal, about 500, we were about the same size then. About 500 buildings were destroyed. And thousands of people were displaced mainly from the waterfront area that I mentioned earlier, and moved into Midtown, sort of forced to move into Midtown, displaced from this supportive and cohesive neighborhood that they had been living in. And a highway separated a large public housing development from the rest of the city, and you know the rest. And then there was IBM. From the 50s through the 90s, IBM employed about 7,000 people in the town of Ulster, the northwestern neighbor to the city of Kingston. Thousands of those employees lived in the city, thousands shopped and ate in Kingston, and hundreds of businesses catered to the employees and the visitors of the employees and the business. And IBM's leaving dealt Kingston quite a blow, almost a death blow. And it has taken a while for the city to lift its head up. There's still a hardcore group of naysayers and negative Nellies who are, I'd say, emotionally and psychologically scarred still after all these years from urban development and IBM leaving. And they don't think Kingston is worth the effort because nothing good can happen here or there. And those are the people that we invite to conversations now. Kingston's been knocked down a bunch of times, and it's come around again. And it's always about building around a place. And it started with some great efforts in waterfront redevelopment in the late 90s. They were the lowest performing properties in the city, and honestly the greatest access to grant funds at the time. So we started with an LWRP implementation plan, then came planning for rising tides, and now we have this award-winning BOA downtown, the Riverport plan. And so, you know, we're working to make connections to the water for the public and connect trails. And going forward, also there was the renovation of City Hall. It was built in 1852. It was abandoned in 1971 during urban renewal. Who knows why? It's a beautiful, beautiful building. And in 1998, former Mayor T.R. Gallo and the gentleman who hired me, the economic developer of the time, Stephen Finkel, among others, collected some grant funds and renovated this beautiful, beautiful historic building and moved all of the City Hall offices back to the original City Hall, which restored some pride in the city and its history and what it takes to run it. And going forward from there, each year, each project, there was increased outreach and community engagement. And right now, I feel we're at the confluence of all the rights. We have the right administration in Mayor Noble and the team that he has enlisted. We have the right council. They're really educated and invested. And I'm not talking about high school and college education. I'm talking about them taking the time to research and become involved and know all of the facets of the issues that are affecting them and their constituents. And we have a really engaged community through the outreach and engagement that we've been working on over the years. The community has found its voice again, and they're allowed to be engaged also by being offered all of the information regarding the issues that are affecting them. We have really strong not-for-profit partners in housing, labor, philanthropy, historic preservation. We have this really great burgeoning arts district. And we have several new residents and businesses relocated from downstate with new capital and energy, and we're welcoming them with open arms. Gentleman Kappa Shaolin is an example of one of those people. He was supposed to be here, and he asked me to communicate a little bit of what he would have spoken about if he had been able to join us today. He was planning to talk about the projects that he's involved in that are the intersection of community and economic development, things like Radio Kingston, Starrcade FC, and Hudson Valley Tech Meetup, and I'll talk about those a little bit in a minute. His LinkedIn profile summary says, and I'm speaking for Cal, I have 20 years of experience in most forms of technical and creative media production. I enjoy, and he thoroughly enjoys, his job and doing his job to better himself and his family, his coworkers, his colleagues, and his community. I enjoy producing film, animation, music, events, and online systems, particularly for a cause or message that strengthens communities. I'm a co-founder of Evolving Media Network and now Moon Farmer, a team of talented web developers and creative media professionals in the Hudson Valley. We've been providing creative services and producing web applications, mobile apps, and websites for over 10 years from our fun and relaxed headquarters in Kingston, New York. And over the last 10, definitely the last 10 and recent years, we have had a major influx of techies. And there's a huge tech community throughout the city, and they get together in that Hudson Valley Tech Meetup that I just mentioned. He says more, I always try to be a champion for my colleagues and their talents. I love helping others to become stakeholders in projects, particularly when the mission is around community development. I want strong working relationships with my peers, and I try to lead by example when it comes to compassionate business. And we have a whole bunch of Kales right now. New and old residents alike, people who are looking to make their lives better by making others' lives better. We have, Kale mentioned Starrcade FC, Starrcade Football Club. We have a men's semi-professional soccer club based in Kingston at Dietz Stadium. Starrcade FC competes in the National Premier Soccer League, which is the 4th division of the U.S. Soccer Pyramid. And they won their first division first year, 2017. And it was a total grassroots effort with local people and Dennis Crowley, the founder, one of the founders of Foursquare. Hudson Valley Tech Meetup is a monthly gathering of creatives, engineers, entrepreneurs, educators, students, and genuine lovers of technology who share their passion for all things tech in the Hudson Valley. And they are committed to their work in technology, but also improving their neighborhoods and communities. We have Radio Kingston, which is a non-commercial platform dedicated to, from its website, it says a vibrant, just, and healthy Kingston centered around community storytelling, artistic and musical expression, conversation, and connection. And through music, conversation, spoken word performances, educational programming, and more, Radio Kingston will reflect and celebrate one of the city's greatest strengths, its diversity. And will be guided by a commitment to lifting up voices not often heard in other media. it's got programs on politics and education, Spanish programming, Mondays with the mayor, and a lot more. We recently updated our comprehensive plan, Kingston 2025, and we are currently going through a zoning update. It sounds really great, but realistically, it's still not all rosy. And I mean, it's not all rosy. It's still some serious work to do. We have nearly 20% of our residents live below the poverty line. Our unemployment rate is still 4%, and we are tremendously concerned about gentrification. All of the people who are there right now making our city great, we want to be able to keep them there and help them continue to succeed. Talking about speculation, the school district administrative building, the administration is moving to a vacant elementary school and selling that building, and the estimated sale price was they thought was going to be about $2 million, and it ended up selling for 4.2 and change. Building on under 6,000 square foot building on Broadway, right smack in the middle of our two poorest census tracts, sold about 3 years ago for around $300,000 or $400,000, and is now for sale for $1.15 million. So it's good, but we just need to protect the people who want to stay there and make sure that they can continue to afford to stay there. And by looking at that, we're taking a holistic approach to neighborhood revitalization. Franklin Street, which is in the poorest census tract in the city, low number of owner-occupied homes, area has seen the least investment in the city historically compared to other parts of the city. But along the street is the library, a great community center, couple churches. So we have wrapped a bunch of resources around this one street, this one neighborhood. We have a $1.15 million project for a complete streets project there, 50-50 match DEC Climate Smart Communities program. We have some Restore New York Round 4 money for housing rehab. We're going to do 3 houses with that, but we also have CDBG funds that we are doing other housing rehab projects on that street. We have a grant from the New York State Department of Health for lead service line replacement, replacing the lead lines from the main to the home all along Franklin Street. And we're moving our land bank office there. We were recently designated a New York State Land Bank. So we're moving our Economic and Community Development Office and our Land Bank office into the community that we want to serve out of City Hall. And so we also support programming at the Hodge Center, including childcare, literacy and job skills training, and case management for a variety of needs. So we're sort of wrapping all of our arms around that neighborhood, and then we're going to pick that model up and move it to the next neighborhood. We're working on equitable development. We had the fortune of EPA awarding us a technical assistance grant through their Building Blocks program. There was a huge community outreach. We gathered a bunch of stakeholders to talk about housing, jobs, education, healthcare, and that kind of thing, and came up with a memo at the end, sort of a roadmap of how we can start approaching improvements to those access to those areas. And through HUD's required action to affirmatively further fair housing, like I said, we're working to increase access to decent housing, effective transportation, good jobs, good education, healthcare, and so on. And like I mentioned, we recently were designated a New York State Land Bank. Is everyone familiar with land banking? Yes, so we're also working on the model that Albany is using, partnering with the Community Land Trust to maintain affordability on as many properties as is feasible and possible and appropriate in perpetuity. So we were also awarded the Downtown Revitalization Initiative Award last year. We applied in we applied in 2016 for our Midtown area, the poorest area of the city and the area that we wanted to focus our work in. But it didn't quite meet the most compact, walkable community that the DRI parameters were asking for. So we applied the following year for our Uptown Stockade area, and we were successful, and we just finished the planning portion in February. We should hear anytime what projects the state has decided to fund for us. So we're really excited about starting that work. And while it was awarded to do work in the most affluent affluent area of the city, the effects will support the rest of the city in job creation, increased tourism, and improved public facilities. So from the 1600s to now, I think you can see that we have succeeded only where communication and engagement and creating and improving partnerships have been the first steps taken in any initiative or project. And there are way too many things going on, and there were way more engaging speakers with a lot more exciting stories, but I have a lot more to say, but I know that we're running short on time and I was late. So I have cards, and I didn't bring pictures, but I did bring visitors guides, so I'll share some out with all of you afterward. And if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me or the mayor's office or any of the city staff. We are all very accessible and interested in telling our story. Thank you.